Today I want to talk about patterns that I've noticed in mediumship. And if this isn't your experience, don't worry about it. Not everyone has noticed this. Some people have been surprised when I've pointed this out in circles that I've attended. So it's just a topic that's interesting to me, and after watching this, maybe you'll notice patterns as well. I've seen, especially in practice circles, but also in my own normal mediumship, I will get somebody's uncle, and then they'll get my uncle, or someone else in the circle will get my uncle. But it's usually one-on-one, or I'll get somebody's high school teacher or college professor, and then they'll get my high school teacher or college professor. There's this reciprocal thing that happens that I've noticed in circles. And it's usually one-on-one, but it's often in the same group that'll happen. I think I said in the last video, I was put in an international circle of just mediums practicing on each other, and I was put in this breakout room with a woman from Scotland. She got my one and only Scottish relative, relative by marriage. But she got him, and I've noticed when there's a similarity of experience between the medium and the person in spirit, that those connections happen more often than not. I've also been in circles where the majority of the communicators, the people that we're connected with, were the same. So they were all moms, or they were all either a teacher of, for example, of the person who got the reading, or they were somebody's relative who was a teacher. But they all had some similarity. Everyone who came through, or most everyone who came through in a circle, had some similarity. Or they all had abrupt passings, for example, or they all died of cancer or whatever. I've definitely noticed patterns like that during readings. And then in receiving readings for myself, I have, it's been really obvious, I have dozens of people in spirit. I made a list, because anybody can come through, right? So I made a list of everyone I've known who could come through. And of the 60-some people that I wrote down, 2 people come through for me all the time. One I knew extremely well, and the other I barely knew. But I know a lot about that person who I barely knew, enough to identify themselves every time they come through. I'm not sure why those 2 people come through. One makes sense. The other one is a parent. The other is another relative related to one of my parents. And I'm not sure why those 2 come through so often, especially the one I didn't know very well, but it happens all the time. So that similarity of experience, like my Latino relatives coming through Latino mediums, either more often or more clearly than through other mediums. I think that similarity of experience really matters. So the 2 things I want to say about that similarity of experience, of the medium's experience, it just makes it easier for them. I don't know if it's easier for them to connect, or if it's just easier for them to convey information. So if you have, for example, a really difficult relationship with a sibling, you'll get people in spirit who had a really difficult relationship with their sibling, especially if that sibling is your client. That happens. For years, many decades ago, I used to transcribe court reporters' notes for LA Superior Court. And court reporters' notes, they write down syllables at a time so they can write really fast, and it comes out on like a ticker tape. So I just wanted to show you really quickly, because it's such a weird specific example. This is what it's called, machine shorthand. This is what it looks like. So what this says is, "Are you ready to enter a plea?" That's what that says. And they can they can write that as fast as someone says, "Are you ready to enter a plea?" They can write it that fast. So that's really specialized, specific skill, specialized, specific skill that I have to be able to read that, or for someone to be able to write that. So it's very easy. So I've connected with 4 or 5 people in spirit who at some point in their life either were court reporters or translated like I did, or had some court reporting connection, because it's such a specific thing. That it's easy for me to get. One time I did get that ticker tape of thing, and I knew it wasn't court reporting, and I was seeing myself making up secret codes and stuff when I was a kid, and it was a code breaker, a World War II code breaker that I had connected with. But if you had no experience with that and you're a medium, how would you get that information? It's just, some things are easier for some mediums to get because of the experiences that we've had in life. I've just noticed that for sure as a pattern. Also, subjects that are important to the sitter, subjects that are important to the medium seem to affect connections. So, for example, I've spent most of my adult life working toward the legalization of same-sex marriage. Marriage is a big deal to me. And the first year that I was doing mediumship, I was constantly getting things for my sitters or my client's spouse. People were constantly telling me, "That's my husband's brother," or "That's my wife's father or whatever. And I think it's because marriage is such a big deal to me that I kept getting that. People who, so I've seen that's definitely a thing. I don't know, keeping it short, like I always do. If you've noticed patterns, I would love if you have noticed certain patterns in mediumship to put them in the comments or questions below. Next week, I'm going to talk about repeat communicators, repeat people in spirit who connect, both as a medium and also as a client or as a sitter. The first time I got a repeat, someone who I knew I had before, I was in a practice circle. I kind of gently pushed them aside, and then my reading went terribly. And I knew I had done the wrong thing, and I knew I was doing the wrong thing when I did it, but I knew I'd gotten them before, and I remembered them. I remembered information about them. So it just felt wrong. The reading went terribly. So I'm going to talk about that, repeat communicators. And then I mentioned in this video how I have two relatives who constantly come through, and I'm going to talk about that more extensively. So until then, see you next time.